Welcome into NCAA basketball bet buffet. I'm your host, Drew Martin, alongside big man on campus, BMOC. Find him on Twitter at Jeff Nadeau, one of, if not the best mind in college basketball betting. Big man, welcome in. How you doing today, buddy?
Doing great, Drew. Hope you're doing well. Hope you have had a good New Year. And when are we getting you back to Costa Rica? What are you on vacation for 3 weeks?
Yeah, just on vacation, doing a video pretty much every single day. So it is what it is for vacation. But I'm flying back to Costa Rica tonight. Actually, I'm broadcasting from Fort Lauderdale, Florida, right now. Where are you at right now?
I'm in the office. I'm in the lair right now in just outside of Philadelphia, doing my thing, Drew Martin.
All right, good stuff, man. Hey, well, let's get right into college basketball. That's what the people want to see. Feel free to comment in the live chat box here. And big man, let's just start off with what about second half conference play thoughts? How you looking to bet college basketball right now at this point in the season?
I think a lot of it is just trying to, like I've said before, and like I continue to say, it's important that you're not attacking basketball on where you have let's say a 50 game card and you're going down it like this, trying to find a game. That's not the way to approach it. My advice is find teams that work for you. Make a list. Have 5 to 10 teams, and really just try to stick with them. I think the conferences that obviously you're going to have some interesting, games all year. Obviously, all the conferences are interesting, but the Big 12 is top to bottom a really good conference. So, are you getting value per se when you're making the plays? Sometimes you're not. Not going to see it from the Big 12 this year. It's just a conference full of really good teams, and even look at like the Pac-12. That's going to be an interesting race all year with the Arizona schools and with Oregon kind of get going. Will all these teams? Will the California schools kind of get going? So my advice is find teams that work for you and kind of stick with those. And they can always be higher end teams, and they could be lower end teams. Your team like I've mentioned before, a team like Drake out of the Missouri Valley, they're an interesting team. The Missouri Valley is an interesting conference in general because you don't have Wichita State anymore. And you look at the bottom of the conference right now, Valpo and Northern Iowa, they're going through a stretch right now where they're both not playing well. And this is going to allow for a team like a Drake or an Illinois State or a Southern Illinois to kind of take the reins a little bit. It's going to be an interesting conference now that Wichita State's gone. Drake's a team that I like because they can shoot the three ball. They can keep themselves in the game with free throws. They shoot a high percentage. They have a kid that could take the game over. They're good on the road. Teams like that are the ones that I'm looking for. And another one, Drew Martin, out of a bigger conference, Xavier. They're a really good team to bet on. They make free throws towards the end of games, 80%. They're actually second in the country in that stat. They're also a team that out rebounds their opponents by almost 8 a game. And they have 8 players that score at least 7 points. So they do a lot of the little things well. Those are the kind of teams that I'm looking to back and have my eye on.
Big man, a follow-up question on one thing that you just said about free throw percentages. I remember you last year saying you don't bet on teams that shoot free throws under 70%. And ever since you said that, I haven't killed college basketball, but I've been a little bit profitable. Keeping that in mind, I never bet a team that shoots free throws under 70%. Do you still have that number as your cutoff point?
Yeah, I'm actually going through right now, Drew. I'm going through a model I'm trying to build on basically the caveat of good foul shooting teams and covering the spread. So basically, coming up with seeing if there's a correlation because normally if you shoot the free throws, you're going to cover games. I'm trying to look at the correlations between look at for instance, Drew. I found 4 teams recently that I really like to bet on, and the common theme from all of those are they all shoot 75% or better from the field. Drake, South Dakota, Central Michigan, and Xavier. All 4 of those teams are really good against the number. And you look at like a Central Michigan, they're number 1 in the country. It is important. It is the most important thing you're going to look at. If you're trying to cover numbers, you have to be able to make free throws. You're just not going to be in many games if you can't do it. And that's kind of, for instance, why I stay away from a certain team like an Alabama. They're the good team. I like Colin Sexton. I like their home atmosphere, but they're 65% from the free throw line. Seton Hall, they're another one. They're another team that you have to keep your eye on. They don't make free throws towards the end of games. You're not going to cover betting on teams that don't shoot foul shots. So I'm coming up with the model now on correlations between covering numbers, but it's no surprise that you look at, for instance, even the top two teams in the country in free throw percentage, they're among the best ATS teams in the country as well.
All right, big man. Good breakdown, man. And you brought up some teams you like to bet on, Drake, Xavier. Are there any other bet on teams you want to throw out there for the listeners?
Yeah, I've mentioned South Dakota before. I think they're a really good basketball team out of the Summit League. I think the conference is going to go through them this year. There's some good players up in that conference. Mike Dahl with South Dakota State and IPFW is always pretty good. North Dakota State, but I like South Dakota a lot. They're another team. I mean, really good from the foul line. Have had some good competition as well. Only lost to UCLA by 3, TCU by 5. They scored 81 a game, and they're 8-3-1 against the spread. So they're a team that I like. And I also talked about Central Michigan. Drew, I think it's also important when you're betting teams to find teams that are disciplined. They can guard without fouling. They can play high percentage defense and not put you on the line. And that's important. Can you rebound the basketball? Do you give leads up? You look at Central Michigan; they're a totally different team than they were last year. They've been made one of the more major transitions I've seen. Last year, they were up in the 90 points per game. They had two players that just isolated and tried to score every game. They were great in transition. The problem with playing like that is you're susceptible on the defensive end, easy layups, easy shots. You just can't play a high percentage defensively because you're always running up and down the court. You look at what they've done defensively, they're almost 20 points a game better on the defensive end than they were last year. They're a better, a more complete team. They have a team that's a little bit more cohesive now. And they lead the MAC right now. Central Michigan, the Chippewas, they're a team to look out for as well. There was a lot of turnover last year in the MAC. A lot of kids left. A lot of people graduated, and it's really an up for air kind of conference right now. They're a good rebounding team. They can score the ball, and they're sixth nationally, Drew, in fouls committed on defense per game. They can guard. They don't foul when defending. That's something key because nowadays with the way they call college hoops, you if you're backing these teams that foul consistently, you're going to let teams stay in games. When you're backing favorites, that's how an underdog can stay in a game, get into the foul line, earning their free throws. You got to be able to do that nowadays, and they're one of those teams that can defend without fouling.
Okay, good stuff, big man. Hey, we're gonna get into some of tonight's card, what big man's betting tonight. We got Juan, what's up, man? He's saying hey to both of us. Nasty asking, do you like Xavier tonight? We can answer that at the end, or you can go ahead now, big man. But also want to get what teams you're looking to fade going forward on the basketball card.
Yeah, I got a couple that I'm looking at. This one is a fade just because they're so horrendous. Southern Illinois, Edwardsville, out of the Ohio Valley. This is a dreadful basketball team. They're giving up 84 points a game. They have 6 losses by 20 or more, and they commit, Drew, 23 personal fouls per game. That's among the worst in the country. They just don't do anything right. They regularly get blown out. And they don't score. They're one of those just dreadful teams. They're one of those teams that you can't defend and they don't put the ball in the hoop. It's a recipe to get blown out. And you got to play in a conference full of good teams. There's Murray State, Belmont, Jacksonville State. There's some good teams down in that conference that you have to be able to play against. And Southern Illinois Edwards was outmatched every single night. This is a scenario that I've mentioned many times. The Temple Owls, when they're laying points, I root for this team. I know everything about them. They're not fit to lay points. They don't fit the scenario where you want to lay points. If you can get them ever as a favorite, I would highly recommend betting against them. They're not in the notion. They don't know how to keep a lead. There's not a game this year where they've been able to keep their foot on the gas and not allow a team to come back. And they've not done it against good teams or bad teams. They allowed Drexel. They were down 17 at one point at home, Temple. They were up 17 at one point against Drexel at home, and they let the lead blow. They just blow leads. That's what they do. Um, they're um, they're gutted right now on defense. They're not playing defense. They have a limited front court. Offensively, they've been down lately. As a favorite, Temple's a good team to fade. You look at tomorrow; they play Cincinnati at home. I'm sorry, on Thursday they'll be an underdog in that game, but got to look for them as a favorite. But you could like they were a 10-point favorite the other night to Tulane. I mean, they shouldn't be a favorite to anyone, frankly. One other one, Providence. They might be a team to keep your eye on. Either however long they continue to be without certain players. They haven't had their big Emmett Holt all year. That's been a big problem, and that's one of the reasons they're 3-10 to the number this year. They've just been ravaged with injuries. St. Joe's is another one. St. Joe's has had a problem here so far with injuries as well. So, you know, just kind of making sure you're updating your stuff. I see one of the listeners is mentioning he's happy that Michigan State's number one. I couldn't disagree more with that ranking. I don't know why they're number one. Um, I don't think they're the best team in the country. I think they have a limited schedule. They're the 24th best RPI in the country. They have 10 wins, Drew, against the RPI 101 or worse. And every step up game they've played, other than UNC, they've lost. I don't think they're number one. They only have two top 35 wins. Why are they the number one team in the country? Can you explain that to me? Because I can't.
No, if you can't explain it, I wouldn't be able to. Big man, want to just divert to coaching changes. I see UC Riverside is changing coaches, going to the assistant coach taking over the role. What is your experience with betting on or fading teams that are going into a new coach? If it is an assistant coach, do you look for a big change at all?
I don't know that I look for a big change for an assistant coach just because the likelihood, and again, some sports it's different. Football, a lot of the time they'll kind of stay with the interim coach. But if with a team like Riverside, I mean, Dennis Cutts was 5-9 this year. He's 1587 at that program. It's again, it's something they needed to do. You might see a little, and I'll be real. There was a team last year, Morehead State, out of the Ohio Valley. They had a similar situation. They fired their coach. Actually had some disciplinary issues with some of the players, and he was let go for a while. And their assistant coach came in, and he did a fantastic job, bang up job. They started playing for him, started to play harder. Sometimes you just need a change at the top, Drew. A lot of the time to fix some of your problems. Will this guy be the coach going forward? I wouldn't root it out just because I mean they're not a huge program. They're not doing well in general, but I think if anything for a program like this, I definitely think it's a plus as opposed to a negative.
Okay, yeah, it could be a spark. I could see that. And big man, I mean, we had
Definitely.
some guys asking about Xavier. Do you have an opinion on them tonight versus Butler?
Yeah, I think this is a nice spot for Xavier. I mean, I mentioned it earlier on our show. You really got to remember Butler's coming off a huge win over the weekend against Villanova, and for people that follow hoops, I mean that's not that surprising. I mean Villanova's just really not been able to ever beat Butler. The last three games they've lost to them straight up. Two of them have been in Butler, and that's a tough place to play. But now Butler takes their act on the road off that big win. Butler's not been good this year on the road. They're 1-5 to the number and only 3-3 straight up. They're not even shooting 40% on the highway. They've had trouble getting stops as well. They're just kind of a different team on the road. And Drew, you look at Xavier. I think it's time to start talking about this team a little bit. I think Villanova is the best team in the Big East. I think Villanova is the best team in the country still. But you have Xavier at this point. They're 14-1. Their lone loss is to Arizona State, who up until this weekend was undefeated. They're 10-0 at home, 7-3 to the number, and a lot of those games at home were big time numbers they were covering. This team shoots 51% from the field, and they're 80% from the line. I'm looking at Xavier in this spot. I think a lot of people will be tempted to grab the 7 here with Butler. Truth of the matter is, this is a letdown game. This is a tough scheduling proposition. Not only do you play Villanova, you play a game that was 105 to 99, but now you got to go on the road 3 days later off of a holiday and off a big win and play another really good team. I don't like this spot at all. Xavier's also a team, Drew, that out rebounds their opponents by almost 8 a game. That's another thing you have to keep in mind. This is not a big Butler team. I don't think they're going to come in. And Xavier's had a lot more luck with them as opposed to against Villanova. So I would go with Xavier.
Okay, BMOC. And one game I'm interested in, this line kind of caught me off guard. It's a 7 o'clock tip as well. Bama and Vandy. Vandy's only covered one game all year, and now they're laying what, 2.5, three, pretty much across the board. Do you agree with this line?
No, but I wouldn't be betting Alabama here either. I think this is a stone cold Vanderbilt line. I think that most of the general betting public is thinking similar to the way you are. Why is Alabama getting 2.5 points in this game? Vandy hasn't covered all year, but we have to look at the peeling back the onion, if you will. You look at the games that Vanderbilt's lost this year: Florida, Middle Tennessee, who, Drew, in my opinion, other than Gonzaga, Middle Tennessee is the best mid-major team in the country. Vanderbilt, they've also played Arizona State. They beat Kansas State. They played Virginia, Seton Hall, USC, Belmont. I mean, their losses are to all high-level opponents. This is nothing to sneeze at. And you have an Alabama team that, you know, isn't a team I'm looking to back on the road. I like them at Coleman Coliseum, and that's about it. I mentioned they are dreadful from the free throw line. That's not something I want to back. And look, I mean, I know Vandy's not been good against the number. No one's going to tell you that. But a lot of those games were as an underdog. This is a better spot, I think, for them. This is a better kind of profile betting wise for them. When they get hot from three, they could be pretty dangerous. Um, and they can make free throws. That could be the difference in this basketball game. I think both these teams are similar. Vandy's a bit better defensively, Alabama on offense. It won't be a game I'm betting on just because the line's so odd, but I would have a slight lean to Vanderbilt. It reminds me a lot of UNLV, Northern Iowa, a couple weeks ago. UNLV had been playing hot. They were the better team, but they go into an opponent and to an opponent that hadn't had been decent, kind of down on themselves. No one really wants to back them. Everyone's on the favorite or the UNLV in that case. I would probably look the other way here.
And what about staying in the SEC? Another 7 o'clock tip. We got Bruce Pearl returning to Knoxville. Auburn's been pretty good this year, and this game's totaled in what the mid 150s here, so it should be pretty up and down. Do you have any opinion on War Eagle versus Tennessee here?
Yeah, I like Tennessee. I like what I've seen from this team, and it's Bruce Pearl going up against his old team. I like Auburn. Again, I'm a little concerned with their off the court issues, just because they've had guys and they have guys that are still out. I mean, if Daniel Purifoy and Wiley were on this team, this could be a top 25 caliber team. The problem is they haven't been. Tennessee's the much better defensive team. I think overall they're probably the better offensive team as well. But here's what Auburn can do, Drew, and this is why I like them as an underdog. They're a good rebounding team. They make their foul shots, and fruitfully, honestly, they make their threes as well. They're a good team as an underdog. I'm not looking to lay points with Auburn, but if I can get them in this kind of profile, 5.5, 6, you know, on an SEC court, and Tennessee's going to put you on the line. If you can make foul shots, you'll stay in the game. Auburn can do that. They do the little things. They're a team I like as well.
All right, BMOC. Hey, you mentioned CMU, Central Michigan, the Chippewas just a bit ago. We got Brick City Matthew asking if you like them tonight.
Yeah, I mean, this would be a bet on proposition for them. Here's the concern that I have with Ohio. Ohio is a team that, like others, was getting healthy. They had to get certain players back. They got Jason Carter back, though he's questionable for this game. He's one of their bigs down low for Ohio. And Ohio runs a real fast tempo. They're like top 15 in the country tempo wise. It's going to be about, can Central Michigan slow this game down and play this game at their pace? Play it in the half court, make Ohio beat them in the half court. It's going to be a fascinating game. But again, it's a toss up because I don't know who's going to be able to run the possessions that they want to run. I think Central Michigan will set the tone, and I think they're the play at home. The problem is, if Ohio can start to make that tempo go quicker, they're going to be at an advantage here. But I don't. The problem that I have with Ohio is they're a bad defensive team, and you're not going to make a ton of money betting on bad defensive teams. I would agree with the listeners here. I like Central Michigan. They're going to keep you in the game because they're so good from the foul line. They rebound, and they're just efficient nowadays. The last year they weren't. They're just a totally transformed team. I would go with Central Michigan here, gun to my head.
All right, BMOC. Hey, we got a big card tonight, a big card tomorrow with the lines coming out on SBR odds right now. Is there any other games that really catch your eye, BMOC, that you got a strong opinion on?
I'm always up for answering anything. To the commenter talking about Michigan State, let's not try to kid ourselves and pretend that UConn's a good win. Who cares about UConn? I put them in with all the other hacks that they've beaten. UNC, this I don't know if this is one of their stronger teams. But again, I guess you feel that Michigan State should be ranked number one. That's fine. I don't think they are, but rankings are a little bit. They're a little cross sometimes. It's a Big Ten night, which I'm not a huge fan of that conference. An interesting game also, Drexel, UNC Wilmington. Public loves UNC Wilmington still, even after the massive overhaul this team has seen. Drew, this team's 3-10. Okay, remember they went to the tournament last year. They lost Kevin Teets, their coach, and now they're back to being awful again. And you're going to lay 3 points here with a team that's 0-9 against the number. Give me Drexel. I like this Drexel group. They're well coached. They got a kid named Zach Spiker. He's one of the youngest coaches in the country. He's come in there and really invigorated that program a little bit. They've had some good wins so far this year. They're a decent offensive team, and they get after you defensively a lot of the game. UNC Wilmington just, I mean, they're giving up 85 points a game. They love to press and do that sort of thing. I think that these senior guards for Drexel can handle that. I'm kind of looking at Drexel +3. I think they might be worth a bet tonight.
All right, big man. Hey, we got a couple guys bringing up good points. We got Guan saying, Auburn won 10 games in a row and they're an underdog. That's what caught my eye. That's why I asked you about it. We also got Kevin
Well,
saying
they're
I've got to lean towards Mississippi State.
Yeah, I mean, they're
Go for it,
playing
BMOC.
Tennessee. I mean, yeah, they're playing Tennessee, and Tennessee's a better team than they are, and they're at home. Tennessee should be an underdog. Should they be a 5.5 point underdog? That's a bit, I think, a little too rich, frankly. I would set it 2.5, 3. These are pretty similar teams. Like I said, I think if Auburn had one or two of their players that are suspended, they would be ranked. And the winning 10 in a row, I think that's a good point by Guan, but um, they did beat Middle Tennessee, all Murray State, UAB. There's some good wins in here. It's not like they beat, you know, um, you know, Cal Poly and North Dakota. They've beaten some good teams here. So I'm impressed with this resume that they've put out. I definitely like the play. As far as Mississippi State, it's not a game I looked a ton into. I like Mississippi State. The Witherspoon brothers are great. They're well coached from Ben Hallen down there, but they're just unfortunately in the SEC conference. And I like Arkansas. They're a bet on team for me. I don't really like to fade Arkansas. They're a team that I think over the years, they're another very well coached group. Mike Anderson does a great job there. They can score with anybody. Um, like I said, I like Mississippi State, but they're just in the wrong conference, unfortunately. They're a solid group, but they got to play tough game after tough game after tough game every night. I'm not crazy about it. And in this spot, you know, I'm sorry, I got to go with Arky.
All right, BMOC. Hey, we got a bunch of guys in the chat box. We appreciate you guys chiming in, what you're wanting to hear. Also, well over 100 people live watching right now on YouTube. Please give us a thumbs up, the like button. It will help us out a lot. We appreciate it. Obviously, BMOC knows his shit in college basketball. Big man, do you have any other opinions maybe on some of the night slate? We got some 9 Eastern tips here, a bunch of them, Florida, Texas A&M, maybe even SDSU, Colorado State there in the Mountain West. Any opinion on betting these for some of the guys wanting some late action?
Yeah, I think one thing before I get into that, I do want to make a point here on it's extremely imperative that you're not looking at injury reports and taking them for granted. I mean, my advice, if you have a particular injury you're interested in, you got to try to get as much information as possible. I wouldn't buy into these injury reports you see. A lot of the time they're not true or they're unfounded. You really have to find beat reporters directly. I have people that I DM constantly with from other from schools that I can try to find info out of. Hey, is this guy playing? Hey, what's the story with this guy? He's got a bum knee. Um, I wouldn't necessarily follow some of these injury servers, these sports insights and those kind of places. A lot of them the information is not particularly good and it's not particularly even updated a lot of the time. San Diego State, yeah, I mean, I'm always skeptical to lay points with them on the road, but they've they've kind of proven this year that they're back to defending, which early in the year it was questionable if they were going to do that. They're an interesting team because they've totally, again, like other teams, have transformed their image. A lot of the time last year they were, let's play half court defense. We're going to play a game in the low 60s. This year they want to get out and run, want to shoot the three, they want to put up points. They've been able to do that, 78 a game. Colorado State lost a lot last year, but they are 7-0 at home, which I got to look more into who they played at home. But um, let's just say I'm not crazy about laying points at this number with SDSU on the road. But um, Gun to my head, I'd probably take it just because I'm not into Colorado State. Uh, do I have a play of the day? Not yet. I will soon. Uh, Rankings just about the teams they're playing at the best time. Yeah, you're right. Um, listen, you're a fan. Nothing wrong with that. I respect your fandom. Um, Nasty Nate's talking about Rhode Island. Yeah, I like them a lot. They play tomorrow, I believe. And yeah, I like that group. I think they're going to win the A10. But yeah, no, I mean it's a good card. It's not a huge card, but there's definitely some value here. And you just got to try to know where to find it.
Yeah, about that Rhode Island game, what they're laying now 10.5, so they've already been bought up a point on tomorrow's card versus LaSalle. I know LaSalle was down what last year, maybe 2 years ago. They were terrible and they were slowing it down. They only had like 5 or 6 scholarship players, if I remember right. Have they been able to
Yeah,
to
and
rebuild there at LaSalle BMOC?
they're not much different actually. It's interesting you say that. Giannini's he's had some special teams. They're actually from Philly as well, which many know. Uh, this year I like them though. I think they're a decent group. The question is, will BJ Johnson play? BJ Johnson's probably their best player. Him and Pookie Pal are a really nice duo there. They can both put 20 in a game, and were really instrumental in beating Temple earlier in the year up at LaSalle. It was one of those border wars. I got to see his availability, but Rhode Island is a big group coming in. They're at home here. If Johnson doesn't play, I got to look into that. I got to check with some people around the city to see if anybody knows what his status is. If he doesn't play, I'm going to try to get in this information as quick as possible. I might try to jump on Rhode Island quick because I think on the road without BJ Johnson, they could be really in trouble in this game against Rhodey.
BMOC, we got James Ross asking about William and Mary tonight. Any opinion on that? And also, anything you want to throw out in kind of like conclusion here?
Yeah, we'll wrap it up with William and Mary. I'm not running to the window to bet on the Tribe. Um, they're one of those teams that just they don't play defense. I mean, they don't get back on defense. They don't get consecutive stops. Neither of these teams I'm looking to get involved with. James Madison, they've been poor at times for me this year. Maybe the over. I mean, the number's pretty high, but I could definitely see this getting to 160. William and Mary plays a frantic pace, kind of like the Citadel does, if you're familiar with them. Both these teams are fantastic from the free throw line. We could see a lot of fouls in this game. We could see a high scoring game here. Both these teams are going to go at it, go hard. You look at last year, 95-92 this game in February. So I would imagine we'll see a game in the 160s. I'd probably lean over here for two frantic teams. But as always,
Hey,
you're great
BMOC.
job hosting. Always enjoy doing a show with you. What do you got?
Yeah, just one last question, man. I can't believe I forgot to ask you. What about Arizona in the Trier injury, and you think that's going to affect them a lot going forward? Would you look to fade them?
I don't know that I'd look to fade them. It's all going to be about their matchups coming up. They were able to get the job done. But here's the problem with Arizona. We saw what one player can do for them without Alonso or without Raleigh Alkins in the lineup. They were awful at times early in the year defensively. Alonso Trier is a guy that doesn't get a ton of credit, but he's one of the better guards in the country. I mean, he's a guy that I mean he really just does a ton for them. I mean, 21 points a game. He's good from the free throw line. He's just a really good player. They're not going to be a team I'm looking to bet on while he's out. No, they won't be a team I'll be interested in.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's what I was thinking too, man. And yeah, we'll be back next Tuesday, same time, 3 o'clock Eastern, 12 Pacific. He's Jeff Nadeau. Follow him on Twitter at Jeff Nadeau. He's the big man on campus. Obviously knows college basketball pretty much better than anybody I know anyway. But yeah, big man, anything else before we close this down?
Yeah, do want to let everyone know, and this is something that I think people can look forward to. Obviously, we're on the roundtable with you on Wednesday, which is always fun. But I want to let people know about something new we're going to be starting. Starting tomorrow night, we're going to be starting up our own betcast, similar to the way we do with the college football or the NFL. We're going to have a play-by-play. Donnie and I will be on at 7 o'clock Eastern for basically a featured game of the week. It's going to be every Wednesday at 7 o'clock p.m. Tomorrow's game will be Florida State and UNC. Should be fun. We urge you to come check us out. We'll do that live play-by-play with people, which people like. kind of give our opinions on the live action, second halves, all sorts of things, and really just keep people updated on what's going on around the college basketball ranks. So we urge everyone check that out every Wednesday. We're going to be starting that 7 o'clock Eastern. Feel free to come by and say hello.
Yeah, that will be fun. Betcasts are fun, man. You're really good at it. I like the one I did with you that one time. I'll have to maybe get in the bullpen if one of you guys miss. Maybe I can get called up or
Oh
something.
yeah,
But
sure. We definitely include you, no problem.
all right, BMOC. Well, yeah, we're pretty much 30 minutes. That's kind of the sweet spot for this show. Guys, appreciate you chiming in on the chat box. Please thumbs up. The like button helps us out. And we'll be back next Tuesday, 3 o'clock Eastern. Look for us roundtable tomorrow, 10 a.m. Eastern. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.